Hello everyone, welcome back. We have a very special guest today. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you. My name is Mohammad Naseer Malikzai. I am from Afghanistan and I'm a graduate student at Montclair State University.
And today you'll share your experiences into medicine, volunteer work, and basically how it made you build an identity.
Thank you so much. It is so an interesting thing. I was planning when I was a student at a school. I was always thinking to do something like a field where I can get very popular, which is the dream of every person. So you would think like to study political science or economics. By the time computer science was newly emerging in Afghanistan. But the problem was that in our country there was war, so mentality and thought was that if you do medicine, you will get a good job, you will help people, and you will get a good salary. In other professions like engineering or economics or political science would not work because there was war. So we also had that mentality to make more money, and the medicine would give us the chance. But at the same time, when you treat people, you get a lot of self-satisfaction because we would see doctors who would treat people, and at the same time, as a doctor, you get a lot of respect in community. So I studied medicine for 7 years. Through that process, the government and the system in Afghanistan changed. Democracy came, the intervention of the United States and international community. So there was little feeling that why I didn't study other profession, because now every profession works well. But that was the time that I had already committed and spent 2-3 years in medicine. So I completed my medicine.
So you grew up in Afghanistan.
Yeah, I grew up in Afghanistan, and in Afghanistan we study in local languages, Pashto and Dari, which are two formal languages in our country. So learning English is another challenge. It's another academic thing that you have to do yourself. We have tuitioning system there in our country. We call it English language courses. So I would go through that also in addition to what I would study in my curriculum. We have a subject in our school as an English subject, but usually we do not learn any English out there. So I had to listen to BBC radio or CNN TV when we had TV, or would read any newspaper, the newspaper that they wrap up with food and stuff in it. So that was the way I learned English.
How old were you when you learned English?
I was in grade 9 of school. So usually we start school, that time we would start school a bit older age. So I was like 16 or 17. Yeah.
Now, while you were growing up in Afghanistan, what was it like for you growing up?
And when you are in Afghanistan, particularly at the time when we were there in the war, there was no other hope but only to do something special for your village. Thinking of coming to the United States or seeing all these things looked really like alienated, something strange. I never thought that I will come to the United States, and I never felt good about the United States. I thought, okay, that is the world where I live, and that is what it will end up. And that feelings kind of totally changed once I had the opportunity to get education as a medicine doctor.
Now, while you were in Afghanistan, was there any experience for you that maybe stemmed into medicine?
Yeah, in Afghanistan, there were one reason that there was war, and medicine had good opportunity to make money. But most importantly, when you are as a doctor helping people, you would see a lot of respect from other people. And I wanted that respect to get in community. So that is why I decided to be a medicine doctor. But also not to forget, when you are young, you always think to have more money.
Of course.
So medicine was the best resources where many doctors would live a very good life. So
now,
I did it.
Before we were sitting down, we were talking about how there weren't as many opportunities for other jobs other than medicine and a few other fields. Now, when you were studying medicine, was this something that you had passion for?
Yeah, of course, yes. When I was at high school, my biology and score were the top all the time. I always got 100. So I had some interest with the understanding of human physiology and pathology and diseases. When I would go to a doctor, either with relatives or when I would get sick, so I would ask a lot of questions because of the interest. And I graduated with a very good score. I was the top 10 students of my university, despite the fact that I was also working like part-time job when I was student, and I was also studying at medical university. I had good record. My GPA is quite good.
Where did you work while you were in university?
It is quite interesting. Some people really laugh at me when I say to them, I worked with a British organization which worked on reports about different social issues. They called it Afghan recovery reporting, where they would prepare investigative reports or research about particular issues. One or two of my articles are also there. I did a research report on HIV in Afghanistan and how serious it could be for people in Afghanistan,
right,
because of the lack of education about all these problems of HIV contamination.
Now, while you were there in Afghanistan and you were studying, you were in Kabul.
I was in Kabul.
And when you were there, was there any prerequisites that you had to take before attending medical school, or was it a straight direction?
No, it is so difficult to get to medicine university. Even that time, among 10,000 students, there were like 50 to be to medical. Out of 10,000, we call it an exam. It's an university admission test. We call it Concours exam. And by that time, when I was taking the test, there were 10,000 candidates. And out of 10,000, only 49 were selected. So it was very competitive, and all those who were selected and who studied with us are very top people. Some of them even became like ministers in Afghanistan.
I can imagine. I mean, 49 out of 10,000 people. Yeah. How was that for you in terms of pressure? Was there any pressure for you?
Of course, it was so stressful. The time when you take exam, in the results, it takes like 3 months. And that 3 months were so distressing, so annoying, and so hard that I really started overeating that time, because when you get overstressed, either you stop eating or you eat more.
Right. Can you tell us a little bit more about that experience of preparing to enter medical school? Was it something that you had to think a lot about? Were there any times where you said, is this what I want to do?
Yeah. So what happened is that when I graduated from high school, the decision was that I will study medicine. It was, as I told you, several reasons. In addition to that, one of the reasons was that if you are a very smart person, you will make it for medicine. So we had some 3-4 months to prepare for the exam. I started purchasing books from grade 7 to 12 and all other resources and references that I needed to prepare for the exam. And it was like a big shelf of all books that I had, and started reading each one and looking to all these references in detail so that I don't miss even single question. So in exam there are 210 questions. By then there were 210 questions, and it had mathematics section, it had biology, chemistry, physics, and also literature like Pashto Indari literature. There was no English word in it. And they also had some poems that they would ask you, this poem is written by whom? Who is the person that generated these poems and things? So there were a lot of difficulties, but that was so hard time. But I was committed. I thought I have only one option, and that is the medicine. Yeah. So I just went for it, and I knew it is difficult. It is challenging. There are a lot of problems in our country.
It must have been hard to have to maintain that level of focus to prepare for this exam, knowing that you would have 10,000 or 9,999 other people that you'd be competing with.
Yeah, it is very challenging. It is very hard. You always feel distressed, like, okay, I won't make it. You try to read something and it doesn't go to your brain, and you feel, oh, okay, I can do it. But I had one motivation. I thought, okay, if I'm reading this part and I'm not understanding it, I'm highlighting it and leave it for the last. So I would go through all what I could learn, and then I would go back to all those things that I couldn't. And the second time when I go through something, then I would learn it. And that was the strategy when I used it in medicine. The most difficult part started when I became a student at medical university.
Was there somebody that taught you that, or is this a concept that you came up with
yourself? This was the idea when I started at school, because I would read something and I wouldn't understand it, and I would try again and I would fail. So then I decided leave it next day. The next day I would read it, it would have become softer. Like if you have a very hard thing and you put some water in it, it would not work, but one day later you come, it is softer. So that idea was something came to my mind, that okay, if I cannot learn this part of the book, leave it, learn the part that I can, and then I would go through it.
So now you're in medical school at this point,
Yeah.
and how was that process for you in terms of applying what you had previously learned into medicine as well as taking in new information?
In medicine, there was a lot of fear. All our professors were so serious at the beginning. With each class started, they said, you can fail, don't be happy that you entered medicine university, you can even fail now and you can be out. So that was a big kind of scary moment for us. So I decided right away to start whatever is there. And the good thing when I started with medicine university was that I was reading from the day onset. When the professor would have a lecture, I would study everything and I would learn. And I would also ask my senior what these particular things mean. In our country, if you ask professor in the class, he or she would mind it and would take it personally. So you cannot have the courage to ask questions. So we would ask our senior what these particular things mean. That was the way that I really made it through, and I really made a good result out of it for the first 2 semesters. But once I got used to it, and then I knew how to go with the pace, and then it went well.
Now, while you were in medical school, did you see other students that were following the same procedures as you? Or did you see that maybe some were kind of falling back, some were going forward?
Yeah, there were a variety of people. I knew people who would study until 1 and would wake up at 4. So they would sleep only 3-4 hours. But I was not like that. I believe that from the start up to the end, because that's what I have to do. So I would wake up around 5 in the morning and would sleep at around 10 in the evening. Even if I had the stamina to study at 11 or 12, I would not. By 10, I would stop. So that was one of my strategies, and all those who lived in my room were close friends to me, because once you are in medicine university, there are groups of people who become friends. So my friends would follow what I would do, but there were other people who would study more than anyone, like for 20 hours.
I could already tell how focused you were while you were there. How did you minimize distractions, or keep your eyes on the goal?
Yeah, one thing I always believe that, okay, whatever you do it 100%, else don't do it. Whenever I would be distracted for something, I would leave books aside. I would finish whatever I was doing, and then there was like, okay, I have to study. But what happened is that it would always encourage me, okay, if I don't study, I will fail. So all those distractions would go away. Like if you feel like to eat, and then you forget about anything. So it was like this. I would say, okay, if I don't study, I will fail. And that is embarrassing. Even my record 10 years later will look bad. So let's study. And that was the reason that I would always get motivated and all distractions would go aside.
Do you feel like you've taken that and kind of brought it with you to every step of the way?
Particularly, yes, of course. When I'm in class, I'm only with professor. When I'm with my phone, I'm with my phone. Only thing that I don't watch TV. Other than that, whatever I do it 100%. And I'm also very social. Like if I don't know how to dance, but when everyone says let's dance, I just move around with it.
Exactly, you figure it out as you go.
Yeah, so I'm not like very hard person, but when I do something, I honestly do it, and I really mean it. And one of my professors, when I came to the United States, she was explaining in the class, and the discussion was about physical activity. I took as an assignment, and she said, whenever you want to decide something, be honest with yourself. And that was a big lesson to me. I said, okay, I used to be honest with myself, but this really made me a strong person, to be strong and resilient more.
Now, what was the day-to-day like while you were studying medicine?
Very difficult financially. Until I get the job, we were so down. I had to work. I had to work in brick factory. I had to do tailoring, and I even did daily wage. So the hard labor as a child. And all these were part of our life, because Afghanistan is so family bonded. If my father did not have enough money to feed us, so we all would say, okay, we are going, whatever is there to do, and we would do it. And it was hard, but it was so loving and committed. Like my father would say, okay, go on, study. And when I would finish with my study in class, I had time, then I would do daily works. But once I got a good job with one of the organizations, then things went well and better. And then my father also found a job, and we were in a better situation.
Now, when you finish medical school, what is the next step typically in Afghanistan?
Once you finish with medicine university, honestly, this is very interesting. The way you get admission to university, it has huge excitement. Once you get admission, you feel, okay, when I graduate, I will be very excited. But the day you graduate, you don't have any excitement. You feel so hard, you feel like, okay, all those years will not be again. And you think about where am I going? And you have no idea what to do. There are a lot of opportunities, but you feel I don't fit into any of these opportunities. So everyone think what to do. I was thinking, and all my friends thought that we have to find job and get salary because we worked so many years and took money from our family. Now we have to get back.
You wanted to pay off.
Yeah, but there was no good option. And you never know what to do next, and you feel like really disappointed, frustrated, because you think, okay, I am a graduate student, people should come and hire me. So there is little bit sort of feelings. But what happens is that once you find a job, whatever job, then you know your direction, if this is the right job or not. I always told those who were after me in one other way, junior, I told them, okay, if you are not sure about any job, find any job that you even think that doesn't fit you. But once you get to that job, then you see the job market, then you understand if this job fits or not. But at least you have a start. Instead of doing nothing, find any job where you can assess your abilities, your skills, and your kind of compatibility with the environment, and then can go on.
Are those experiences that you wish you would have known before finishing?
Of course, yeah. I really wish that, because that is the time where the whole world is in front of you and you are the only person to conquer the world. Exactly. That is the feeling you have because you graduate. And if you know good things, if you have good advisor, then that works.
Now, how old were you when you finished medical school?
When I finished medical school, I was 26.
26.
Yeah.
And so from there, you were also working with the UN at the time. Is that right?
Yeah, it was kind of part-time job, but then I started with to be.
Because you were training.
Yeah,
you were a training officer. I remember I was reading that.
Yeah.
So what was that experience like? How did you get that opportunity?
It was unexpectedly interesting because I had so much passion and interest with the training, and there was an announcement in UNDP, and I read a lot of resources, references, how to be a good trainer and other things. They announced and I applied. They shortlisted me. I took a test, and then they invited me for interview. And because I knew how to answer questions about training, I replied to all those questions, and I was selected. And then I ran a very good time with them. I had a lot of good experiences in working with them.
What does a training officer typically do as a part of being a part of the UN?
Not only you do training, you also organize training, coordinate with the participants, invite them to the trainings, take responsibility of accommodation and cost and everything. So it was like starting from the scratch, preparing the training plan, working on training materials, modifying training materials, and then organizing every logistics, mostly like telling who shall do what, and then during training delivery, be part of the training, provide particular teamies as a trainer, and then do the certificate evaluation, follow up.
Now I have to ask, what is the training for?
So there were that particular training was mostly about leadership and management, and it was for the civil service, like all public health ministries, education ministry, and other departments. Yeah.
Did you make any interesting connections being a part of the UN?
I did. In my last job was because of the first job that I got in the United Nations, where I was humanitarian affairs officer. Yeah.
And then you were able to take on more opportunities within the UN as well.
Yeah. My last job when I left to here to the United States was as a humanitarian affairs officer in the United Nations, where I would go to field offices. I was responsible for field coordination, where I would not only do emergency preparedness for all clusters. We call them cluster like health, education, nutrition, where a lot of people get displaced because of war and floods. I also was part of the response in recovery, where people would be affected by flood, or they would get displaced locally by war. We would go there, assess their situation, see if what requirements they need on health, what are the requirements on nutrition for children, and also shelter and food and other things. So all these things we would do the assessments and would do the responses.
Do you feel like, having worked with the UN, do you feel like a lot of their values and what they provide are kind of tied with your values?
When United Nations work, you see at the field level, yes. Mm-hmm. But when you come at the top level, you a bit get confused.
What's something about working for the UN that most people wouldn't know about unless they had?
Yeah, United Nations really follow their values and rules. If any person who is from any country violates the rule, they will get their punishment, and that is something really you like.
Right. Yeah. Now, going through this process of having worked, and how many years was that you were with the United Nations?
Almost 6-7 years.
6-7 years. Yeah. Now, this is before you went to Montclair State University. But while you were at the UN, did you feel like a lot that you had taken from medical school provided you the foundations to become successful throughout that process?
Yeah. One thing in Afghanistan is that you help people. As I told you at the beginning, I thought that medicine will make a lot of money, but once the government changed and there was like international community intervention, so medicine became like a very low income profession. But all those who graduated as a medicine doctors, they really made a lot of progresses. Like one of my classmates is now the advisor of the president on narcotics of Afghanistan. And one of my classmates became minister of social affairs. She was minister for 3 years.
These are high-level positions.
These are the top-level positions in our country. So in all those were because they studied medicine. And medicine gives you, when you study medicine in Afghanistan, gives you a lot of opportunities that you learn more things compared to other sections or faculties in Afghanistan. Because medicine you have to study for 7 years, and you have to go through very rigorous process all these years. So that person is like kind of compatible to adapt to any environment. But with the passage of time now, everyone is so highly qualified in their own profession, so people are making
specialization.
Yeah, in education now quite improved compared to the years when I was a student. So of course I always give credit to my medicine. When even coming to Montclair State University was because of my medicine and my GPA, that it was good. That's why I
were able to make it here.
I was able to come to United States and study here.
And just from what you know about medical schools in the United States, how would you compare the process compared to going through medical school in Afghanistan?
I would avoid to compare it, but because you asked me, I will say that education in Afghanistan and in the United States is quite different. You cannot, how can I say, like when I came here in the United States, the professors, every professor so far asked us continuously asking us to ask them question. In our country, when you ask professor a question, he will remember you, and all the time he will kind of school you one way or the other. And that is something which is quite different. Education level, we have only final exam, and we have a 20% exam 2 weeks before the final exams. So you study like 200 pages, you have to be prepared at the last of the semester, and when you get like 3 or 4 subjects, then it's quite problematic for you in Afghanistan. Here, from right on the onset, from the first week, the professor gives you syllabus and tells you what to do and how to do it. So all these things help a lot the students compared there in the United States. One thing which I would say is kind of comparable, where in Afghanistan, professors give you a lot of readings, say like 300 pages for 2 weeks. In the United States, it's the same. So like I have 3 classes for my public health at this semester. So the professors always say, okay, do this reading. each professor says the same thing, and it coincides in 1 week, like you have to read 200 pages. Because every professors are not in contact with others, so
Right,
they all put it
exactly.
in 1 week. It is same in our country.
Okay.
Everyone says read that many, but they never think, okay, is it possible? Is it realistic? So sometimes you feel, okay, this is so much. I really want to learn this, but I cannot. What
Because
to
you're
do?
thinking about how much work there is ahead of
Yeah,
you.
so even if you read, you cannot read 200 pages in 1 week. So that is something that is comparable, and I think here professors and faculty members can work on it so that the students are not overloaded only in a particular week rather than it is split.
Why do you think that miscommunication happens?
This is very normal. I think it's not a fault of professors of our
Right.
faculty, because students take variety of classes. Like I take one nutrition, but my major is public health. So it is difficult for all professors of a university like Montclair to get together and plan everything accordingly. There would be some kind of conflicting schedules and things where the professors cannot do it. But there is something, if there is a solution for it, that would be really ideal. It is mostly the academic advisors with the professors, if they can like plan it particularly for graduate students, that would really help reduce the stress that some students go through or depression that they go through.
And like you described before, that level of stress is,
Yeah.
you have to carry that throughout your entire time while you're
Yeah.
in school.
Yeah.
But and then how did you make your decision to come here to Montclair State?
Yeah, when I was working with the United Nations, I felt okay. I had a good job. Now I feel to go somewhere and study and get another master's degree in public health, because I totally kind of felt converted as a public health person, but I didn't have the academic documents with me. I looked for the opportunity, and in our country there were several opportunities, but Fulbright scholarship was the best opportunity. And my choice was community health education. In Montclair State University was offering the community health education. With the embassy, they suggested what is your interest based on the application that I prepared. So it was community health education. And then they said, okay, we have choices for you. Montclair State University was the first choice that they provided to me. And then there was Oklahoma University and one to University in Colorado.
Right.
And then my application came to Montclair and I was selected. And I didn't know much about Montclair, but when I started searching and finding information about it, then I found it interesting.
After you find out that you were accepted, did you feel any type of dissonance between, oh, now I have to go to New Jersey? This is a big transition. Most people wouldn't make that transition.
Yeah. It was a big news for me. I did not expect it, because for the Fulbright scholarship there were like 2,000 students, and out of 2,000 they only accepted 70 people. So it was quite.
So it was another decision where there was a small amount of people with a large amount of applicants.
Yeah, very competitive, and there were so many public health who wanted to be public health students at the United States. That was really happy time. But this time was different than admission to medicine university, because I didn't have so many people to celebrate with. So it was kind of celebration with myself. And I felt okay. I really made it, and that is really a turning point in my life. And once I understood that I'm a Fulbright scholar and I will study public health, I thought, okay, that is the time when I go back, when I return to Afghanistan, I will really work for my country the way that I thought of when I was at school. I always thought, okay, I made enough money. Now it is the time to deliver to people.
Exactly.
And this Montclair State University was a good opportunity. So my ambition and my thought is that I will go to work in public health ministry. We have a department which is called Health Education and Promotion. And I will be part of that team and will be doing health promotion in education, particularly in remote provinces of Afghanistan, where people do not have access to health services, where they don't know what is health education, or even they don't know what is prevention. So.
And then you also now have a position, or you had a position at NYU.
Yeah, in summer I did work with New York University School of Medicine. There was a project which was focusing on the South Asian family and community in New York City. It was health education in promotion, so I would go to community-based centers like mosques, would discuss with them health promotion and health education issues. We will check their blood pressure, and we will also help them how to do that regularly, provide them some information on chronic diseases like diabetes, heart diseases.
What was something about working with that community that you didn't expect, that you realized?
Yeah, it is so interesting. For 2 years I'm in the United States, people were saying that people in the United States are racist or that. I never find any person doing that. Everyone was so nice, including police when they pulled me over on the road. They treated me so well. When I went to those people, I knew their language like Hindi, in Urdu somehow, and then Bangladeshi people, and when they understood that I'm from Afghanistan, they were so welcoming. They would, when I would do the health promotion and everything, after that they would say, okay, now it's enough, let's talk about social life and how life's going. And that was quite interesting. And when I was living in Harlem during that time, my internship, I rented a house there. I found my neighbors and people so nice and kind to me. And it is, I'm really impressed by how people are diverse and how they behave good with each other.
Exactly. I mean, that's something that you want, especially when you're traveling from so far. You want to find that your group that stays with you, because otherwise it's a very isolating experience. Now, at this point, what do you think will be the next step for you?
Yeah, the most important thing is that to attend my ceremony, the commencement ceremony, which is scheduled on 21st May. I am really excited for that, despite the fact that when I graduated from medicine, we had a good ceremony, but I had a painful experience of that. That was the time my father had esophageal cancer, and 3 months later, my father died. So that was not as relaxing and good feelings of a graduation.
That's very
so for this graduation, I am really excited, and I feel to see that ceremony and pass through the stage as a graduate student of Montclair student and have the pride for my country, for my people. I always tell people here in the United States, you will forget me as Naseer because I am an individual, but you will never forget that I was from Afghanistan. So I represent my country, not myself here. No, so that is so good thing for me. And going back home, I scheduled my travel like 2-3 days after my commencement to go home, and I will be working at Public Health Ministry as a health promotion person or a health promoter.
That's so great. I mean, did you think from the beginning that you would be where you are today?
Really not. When I was at school in Medicine University, I never thought of the United States. There is some sort of negativity in Afghanistan about the United States.
I can see that.
Because of all war and how they portray the country in Hollywood movies. Because people see movies and then say, okay, that's what United States is. Right. But when you come here, you see the feelings, the love, the family affection, the respect, the values. Then you feel, no, actually people are quite different. So I never thought of coming to the United States and getting education, but that happens. Sometimes happens, you never know.
Now, if there was a student that wasn't really sure of the next step for them to take, whether they were interested in medicine or they were interested in a different field, what would you tell them based on your experience?
Yeah, I would tell them like it is difficult to make judgment and decision. The best thing is that do what you feel that would fit in you, even though if you are not sure. Do 1 year, 2 year. There is not so much here, you can change it, but just don't stuck. Move on with one profession or other. Usually people see like one individual, okay, this is the person, so he is a great person or she is a great person, so I will follow what her step or his step. Or someone says, okay, this is the profession where I will be most fit into it, just go for it. But sometimes when you get so confused, then there are some people who can you get advice to, like your cousins or relatives, father, mothers are good advisors. But for me, when I was at high school, my cousin was really a good advisor for me. One day he told me, Naseer, I was in grade 10 of high school. He told me, Naseer, if you want to be a good person, that is the time to be good. If you really want to be a bad person, that is the time to be bad. Now it is choice. It is your choice, whatever you do. I really thought, okay, that's a good thing. If I want to be good, it means I have to study a lot. And if I want to be bad, I should not study. And that was the point when I was like, okay, I started studying more than I used to be studying.
That's great. And I think that's something that's going to resonate with a lot of people, whether they're looking into medicine or not. So I thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you.